Welcome to IB Today Podcast. Let's talk. This is your host Mohammad Afan. Today we're doing a special show regarding Okayker, and we have one of our co-founders with that, Miss Anusha Shahid. Acha, Anusha, let's introduce yourself to the audience who don't know who Anusha is.
I'm Anusha. I've been working now in the startup space for the last 5 years. Prior to that, I went for my Fulbright, and that is where I was sort of exposed to entrepreneurship and how this is an entire career option. Let's say because my program, my master's graduate school program was specifically focused in technical entrepreneurship, and I think that was my first exposure to how much of a science it is already. And when I came back from that program on Fulbright, I realized that the best way to actually put that information or knowledge or learning to use was to become part of like already existing startups, and that's when I started off with Find My Adventure, and then eventually became part of the Okayker team as co-founder here.
Right. So you talked about your educational experience. I just wanted to deep down on that because you went to LUMS.
Yes.
Most of our audience would be at from IBA.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the experience. What your experience at LUMS? What has brought you here?
So, a very interesting thing about my LUMS experience was that I did my majors in physics. So I was a SSC student, और जो हमारे normally SSC students उनसे expectation होती है कि they have literally no life besides the life that they spend inside that building of the sciences.
I think it was the same case when I was at IBA Computer Science. I think that was
Exactly,
more or less.
I think multiply that by 10 because उसमें भी I was focused in physics, which was another level of difficulty etc. that we were talking about. But what I loved was because I was a hostlight, I got the chance and experience to be exposed to a lot of different things. I was part of the dramatic society there. We were managing events. I got chances to be part of the boxing team there. So ये इस तरह की बड़ी interesting चीज़ें हैं जो मैं कर सकी वहाँ पे, जो मैं otherwise शायद नहीं कर पाती अगर मैं LUMS में नहीं होती या मैं LUMS में specifically hostelite नहीं होती. So that I think made my experience very well rounded. पहाड़ों पे चढ़ गए क्योंकि वो because of the accessibility from Lahore.
True.
बिकॉज आप कैंपस पे हैं तो आप जो है दुनिया मतलब आप मुल्क में कहीं से भी आए हुए लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्ट कर सकते हैं रात के 4 बजे भी बैठ के, एंड दैट इज़ नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम, राइट? सो ऑल ऑफ दोज थिंग्स सॉर्ट ऑफ बिल्ट और मेड मी द पर्सन, द क्यूरियस पर्सन दैट आई इवेंचुअली बिकेम was output of the LUMS experience.
Right, that's quite interesting for the people who are listening right now, because I think hostel experience in general is that I think it feels you that you are living with the whole Pakistan together.
Exactly. And then like we had people coming in from Chitral, from all the way from Balochistan,
Right.
and people that you would otherwise not be interacting in the same setting, right? So वो एक जो exposure I feel that changed the way we looked at life in a lot of ways.
Right. So after graduation, you worked at K Electric.
K Electric, yes. So
I just wanted to ask you, एक physics major and K Electric, I don't know how does it sink in.
I think 4 years at LUMS, before K Electric happened, physics में, it wasn't like I was a bad student. I just realized that this is something that I would not be able to do for the rest of my life, because a lot of what we were doing was done in isolation, and that is not my personality type. So I think senior year में ये realization मुझे हो चुकी थी कि ये बस यहीं तक है, इससे आगे मैं ये कर नहीं सकती. So I started उस वक्त क्योंकि स्टार्टअप तो इस तरह का कोई आइडिया इतना प्रिवेलेंट नहीं था, तो द बेस्ट ऑप्शन वी हैड वाज लैंडिंग अ पोजीशन एज अ मैनेजमेंट ट्रेनी इन एनी कॉर्पोरेट. एंड फॉर मी द गुड थिंग दैट हैपेंड, और लाइक आई थिंक वन ऑफ द बेस्ट थिंग्स दैट हैपेंड वाज दैट आई एंडेड अप इन K Electric HR as a management trainee, and that too very specifically in the head office. So like people are very surprised when I say that I loved my 2 years there, because
I was shocked.
Because I was very fortunate to work with people who gave me the opportunity to ask questions. I could go up to GM or director, even the जो हमारे उस वक्त HR के जो चीफ थे, I could go up to him and ask him a question and he would respond to me. एंड आई थिंक मैं बड़ी फॉर्चुनेट रही उस तरह से, बिकॉज मुझे वो एक तो सवाल पूछने से मेरी झिझक जो है वो पहली जॉब में ही ख़त्म हो गई. एंड अनदर वेरी फॉर्चुनेट थिंग आई वुड से वाज कि दे प्लेस्ड मी इन रोल्स वेयर आई जहाँ पे कुछ ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता था. So at that time they were setting up a people analytics function within the HR.
Right. That's interesting. On the HR maybe
Exactly.
right.
And they identified that okay, this person is more suited for it. And I got to build it as a management trainee, and then like as when I got promoted to assistant manager role, so I got to build it with my chief people officer over there at that
Right.
time.
So from there afterwards then you went to
And
Fulbright.
then after that I went to Fulbright. So I think मेरे लिए वो भी एक बड़ा interesting journey रही कि I got because I knew कि मुझे Fulbright पे जाना है, और वो जो 2 साल हैं I didn't really care कि मेरी promotion होगी या नहीं होगी, और मुझे मेरे बॉस को मुझे पसंद करना है या नहीं करना है. All of those things were on the back burner, right? फिर भी तो मैं उसके लिए बहुत खुला होके मैंने जो है वहाँ पे लर्निंग की अपनी. I would go up to anybody and ask whatever I wanted to and learn in whatever way I could.
Right. So you know that's great to hear because K Electric के बारे में लोग mostly ये कहते हैं कि एक तो तुम K Electric में काम करते हो, like you lose your respect there and there.
I think it depends on where you are in K Electric because as an organization, it 11,000 बंदों की वो organization है.
True.
With so much happening, and from an HR perspective, I feel it was the best place to be present in because learning के terms में for me it was like I think I landed a jackpot there.
Right. Sugar आप CRM में नहीं थे.
हाँ,
That would be a killer.
Yeah, वहाँ पे मैं शायद भाग जाती.
Right. So, you know, let's talk about your new company, Okayker. So, you were part of, you are now as a co-founder working there.
Yeah.
So, now how did, you know, for the team, how did Okayker come about? What was the idea? What was the problem that this was solving at that point?
So, interesting story. My co-founder Nashit is, he was ex-Kareem, and prior to Kareem, he had built another delivery startup that he sold to Kareem, that was acquired by Kareem and he became part of there. But he comes from a family business that has been trading in automotive spare parts for a while. And all the rest of us have had our own share of challenges when we go to the mechanic and get our cars fixed, right? Like मैं अगर अपने ऊपर रखूँ तो मैं तो workshop जा भी नहीं सकती because मेरे लिए that is not an option, right? So मुझे अगर अपनी गाड़ी फिक्स करवानी है तो मैं या तो अपने घर में जो मेल हैं उन पर डिपेंडेंट होती थी या ड्राइवर को बोलना पड़ता था, या फिर वहाँ जाके बहुत ऑकवर्डली मैकेनिक को जो है वो चाबी देती थी और उसके बाद वापस आ जाती थी कि भाई आप जो भी करेंगे आप ही करेंगे, मुझे नहीं पता और मैं यहाँ पे खड़ी भी नहीं हो सकती देखने के लिए. So I think as a problem all of us could relate to it very well. And then adding the automotive spare parts वाला जो एक exposure या experience that Nashid had, we realized that this was a recession-proof business because
from some extent, yeah.
Because when कोविड हैपेंड, नई गाड़ियाँ नहीं बिक रही थी लेकिन जो स्पेयर पार्ट्स हैं या जो मेंटेनेंस का काम है वो हो रहा था बिकॉज पीपल कट डाउन देयर एक्सपेंसेस जो नए गाड़ी खरीदने वाले हैं, बट उनको नेसेसिटी है तो मेंटेन तो करना है. एंड मार्जिन्स हमें समझ आ रहे थे वहाँ पे, एंड एज अ प्रॉब्लम वी रियली अंडरस्टूड द प्रॉब्लम, राइट? And that is when we got into this and started building Okayker from there.
So, मतलब अच्छा, for the people who don't know Okayker, let's say how does it work? मतलब अगर मैं I want to use Okayker, मतलब how does it work?
If you as a vehicle owner want to get your car repaired or at your doorstep, or let's say if it's a larger or a more detailed job and it can't be done at your doorstep, you want that car to be taken to a reliable workshop under warranty and with absolute transparency about which auto part is being installed in your car, depending on the budget that you have. You can simply download our application, whether iOS or Android से पे जो भी आपका फ़ोन है उस पर आप एप्लीकेशन डाउनलोड करें या आप हमारे हेल्पलाइन पे कॉल करें, जहाँ पे आपको पूरा एंड टू एंड एक्सप्लेन कर दिया जाएगा कि आपकी जो गाड़ी है उसकी जो प्रोवाइडेड जो रिक्वायर्ड सर्विसेज हैं वो आप किस तरह से अवेल कर सकते हैं. And then based on your location and proximity, हम एक workshop से एक technician dispatch करेंगे for your doorstep, who will come diagnose the car, send you a detailed quotation. Once you approve that, वो service आपकी गाड़ी की complete कर दी जाएगी at the convenience of your doorstep.
It's quite interesting to be honest. मतलब क्योंकि आज के दौर में it's like you know most people are working, उनके पास time नहीं होता किसी चीज़ के. Like if someone comes, because we have seen delivery startups working out, and I feel this is something care. It's like coming to your home.
एग्जैक्टली
हाँ
एंड जो दूसरा बहुत सो वर्कशॉप एंड पे भी बहुत बड़ा मसला है राइट क्योंकि फ्रॉम मंडे टू फ्राइडे वो हार्डली 20% यूटिलाइजेशन पे होते हैं उनके पास दिन की एक गाड़ी भी आ जाती है तो बड़ी बात है एंड सैटरडे संडे दे आर पैक्ड सो आप एज अ व्हीकल ओनर जो है या कार ओनर जो है यू डोंट वांट टू स्पेंड दैट टाइम ऑफ योर सैटरडे और संडे ऑन द वर्कशॉप इज वेल राइट और जो वर्कशॉप वाला है वो भी यही चाहता है कि उसको जो है वो मंडे से फ्राइडे काम मिल जाए ताकि जो दिहाड़ी दे रहा है अपने टेक्नीशियन को वो पूरी हो जाए सो वो दोनों इट्स अ प्रॉब्लम एट बोथ एंड्स
right. मतलब now it's been 3 years you were telling me मतलब what challenges that you have faced it's in facing building Okayker at this point.
So I feel there are two ends of the problem right एक तो ये था कि जो because we were in the service sector जो startup था it was providing a service and then maintaining those kinds of services in the Pakistani market is a challenge of its own. And the second problem is that there was no existing technology around it for us to sort of aspire or look up to. So we had to build the technology around it in such a way कि जो भी हमारे service sector issues हैं जिसमें tracking होती है visibility है वो हम we make that part of the technology that we were building. And I think we're very proud of what we have built in terms of the technology now.
Alright.
Both for the technician, for the customer, and as an internal workshop management application as well.
Right. So that's great for as a company I think and but from a customer perspective I had this survey today and I was asking if anyone has used Okayker and they were said कि I have but and they said yeah they overcharge us a lot they मतलब it's like हमने एक काम के लिए बुलाया है छोटा सा काम है हमारी नज़र में वो आते बोलते हैं ये पूरा चेंज होगा and they feel कि यार मतलब it's like वो तो पूरी चीज़ें चेंज करने की बात हो जाती हैं it's like for us it becomes more expensive rather than going to a technician. What do you say about that?
I think so पाकिस्तान में ना जुगाड़ जो है वो किंग है राइट आपको मुझसे बेहतर पता होगी ये चीज़ तो जब आप एक मैकेनिक के पास जाते हैं तो आपको ये बोलता है कि ये मैं इसमें ये छोटा सा काम करूँगा चल गई तो चल गई और नहीं चली तो नहीं चली राइट we try and avoid that as much as possible but क्योंकि again we extend warranties as well for any part that we're providing you will have a proper warranty coverage on it any service that we're providing हम उसकी 7 day या 100 kilometers whatever comes first warranty भी दे रहे होते हैं उसकी so to ensure that we are able to maintain that we do not take the जुगाड़ वाला route in most cases but there have been instances जहाँ पे customer ने हमें insist किया and we've done those but at the responsibility of the customer because हमें longer term perspective में अब समझ आ चुकी हुई हैं बहुत सारी चीज़ें कि ये they will not work so जुगाड़ is the way and इसलिए लोगों को अक्सर ये महसूस होता है कि we overcharge them.
नहीं यहाँ तो लोगों की जिंदगी जुगाड़ पे चल रही है what can you say about cars but yeah I think it's मतलब definitely I think हर किसी को I think criticism there is that critic feedback that comes out and but that's interesting from your perspective but you were talking about funding issues that was the challenge.
I think so when we started off Okayker एक तो 2021-2022 was the age of retail and B2B businesses etc right and probably हम लोग जिस टाइम पे शुरू कर रहे थे वो we were not our industry was not the favorites in terms of fundraising and जो services businesses उनकी growth is slightly different from let's say जो आप commodities में जब आप trade कर रहे होते हैं those are different right so compared जिन businesses से हमें generally in terms of investment compare किया जा रहा होता था वहाँ पे I think हम उस तरह से match नहीं कर पा रहे होते थे but over time we've been very alhamdulillah fortunate कि we found people who backed us and understood that we were building a sustainable, profitable business over time.
Right. Matlab, did you feel at that particular point during COVID and during this time particularly when you see companies like Car First, Wawa Cars, from a similar perspective like your, they do these automated versions of analysis of cars. Do you really feel that these large behemoths couldn't last? Would we eventually die down like them?
So I feel that again, जो business models हैं वो slightly different हैं because like I pointed out earlier as well कि we are operating in a very recession-proof industry, right? जहाँ पे गाड़ी जिसके पास है उसको मेंटेन करनी है, वो शायद नई गाड़ी नहीं खरीदेगा, वो स्विच नहीं करेगा, लेकिन उसको मेंटेनेंस पे स्पेंड करना है. एंड पीपल हैव ओवर टाइम रियलाइज्ड कि एक बार, एंड दिस इज ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द नॉलेज शेयरिंग दैट वी डिड विद आवर कस्टमर्स, कि आप एक बार अच्छा पार्ट लगा लें बजाय इसके कि आप एक चाइना या कॉपी पार्ट लगा लें to last longer. So वो over time लोगों को, हमारे customer base को ऐसे समझ आ रही है. So for us, we've been able to sustainably build that, and the best part has been that we've been able to retain our customers as well. So जो हमारा quarter on quarter cycle होती है हमारी, and we have around 35% retention rate in terms of our customers who come back to us for periodic maintenance from one quarter to another. And if I, let's say, extend this period to 6 months, this goes up to around 45%.
That's interesting stats वैसे. For a business, I think for any खास तौर पे if you categorize it under a delivery kind of a business, if someone comes to services business in tertiary sector, I would say मतलब it's a huge attention market, right?
So and like the referral rate is another like a lot of our customer base is referral of our existing clients. So I think that way we've been able to sustainably build that customer base and sort of retain them as well.
Right. मतलब आपने जो चाइना वाली बात की, आई रिमेंबर दिस वीडियो दैट यू गाइस वाई मैन वाली. आई वाज वाचिंग इट टुडे. आई फील लाइक हाँ
वो एग्जैक्टली हाईलाइट करती है सारे प्रॉब्लम्स जो एक गाड़ी जो मैकेनिक के पास लेके जाता है बंदा वो फेस कर रहा है.
राइट, इंटरेस्टिंग. आई थिंक दैट्स इंटरेस्टिंग. बट आई जस्ट वांटेड टू आस्क यू, एज अ फीमेल को-फाउंडर, मतलब हाउ डू यू फील, मतलब व्हाट इज द चैलेंज पर्टिकुलर टू यू that you are facing? So not your other co-founders, but I'd say from your perspective.
From a female perspective, जो एक मैं personally, even when I was working in my startup prior to Okayker, felt was जो network वाला जो एक factor है ना, वो थोड़ा difficult हो जाता है. Yes, there are a lot of programs that are now trying to sort of bridge that gap, but एक जो with male founders जो एक comfort होती है of networking outside of professional settings, वो हमारे लिए थोड़ी सी difficult होती है. So a lot of information sharing that happens in, let's say, over smoke or outside of, let's say, your offices, we somehow end up not being part of those conversations, and that becomes a challenge. But I think a lot of there are programs that are trying to sort of bring those conversations back in more professional settings.
Right. So from programs, I was just going to ask you about these events, like Disrupt is happening.
Yeah.
You went to /D as well.
Yes, we did. We were there as well. Yeah.
Right. What do you think about those events?
Yeah, so as conversation starters, they're a great place to be present at. You can definitely, it is up to you what you make out of these events, right? अगर आप वहाँ पे जाके sidelines पे खड़े रहेंगे तो yes, probably आपको feel होगा कि utility नहीं थी, but if you want to initiate conversations, introduce yourself to people that you would otherwise like to carry forward conversations, these are great events. And I think we've been very fortunate कि वहाँ से हमारे बड़े interesting या important connections बने जिनको हमने over time फिर capitalize किया भी है.
Right. I think from your perspective, I think it's great. But some others, I think I've interviewed a lot of founders, and they say, if you're ventured back, I think these events, you get highlighted a lot. But if you're not ventured back, it feels like you're being left out. It's like an exclusive group of ventured back company.
Yes and no. I think in some ways maybe, but in other ways I feel that for us what has worked, again I will talk from my personal experience only, is that we've been like from conversations with investors who've not invested in us but because of their mandate, the fund's mandate, they might not have invested in us, but they've ended up introducing us to others who have, right? Or from founders who were present there, who were venture-backed founders, and having conversations with them. We were fortunate enough that they ended up introducing us to, people who eventually did back us. So the event itself is what you make out of it, I think.
True. Do you have any opinion about venture-backed companies? You are a venture-backed company right now.
We are a smaller venture-backed company, but I think not every business can be a venture-backed business, and not every startup or a founder should aspire to raise funds from a VC.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I just feel one should not overvalue the founder just because his ability of able to raise a lot of money. Mother, what do you
Again,
say?
I wouldn't also undervalue that, to be very, very
I think
honest,
it's
because it is not easy, right? You're
true.
talking to people who are going to be analyzing you in a lot of ways that
Hmm.
um, another investor might not be. So yes, it is a skill that they have, and it is something that is of a very high value.
Hmm.
But if is that the only thing of value, I wouldn't agree with that.
Hmm. Right, quite interesting. Uh, Moving on, I just wanted to, matlab, I just wanted, towards the end, I just wanted to ask, what's your matlab, advice to young girls who are right now at school and thinking about looking at co-founders like you, matlab, what's the goal that they should be working on, and what's the advice that they should have?
Yeah, I think couple of things. One is don't be afraid to ask questions, no
Hmm.
matter what it is. Whether you feel that you're in a situation जहाँ पे आप uncomfortable हैं, आप सामने वाले बंदे को point out करके उससे पूछ सकते हैं उसने क्यों किया है. And I think वो ability अपने अंदर build करना. And दूसरी जो questions पूछने वाली बात में मैं जितनी emphasize करती हूँ ये कि आपकी learning जो है nobody is going to come to you and teach you things.
Hmm.
Your learning is completely dependent on how many questions you can ask and how comfortable you are with that. One. And second, I think think big. I think as women, as female founders, as a female in any setting, we find it very hard
Hmm.
to think big and to think that we are capable of achieving something.
True. I think I
larger
will talk
than-
to all founders. Yeah, I agree with all founders. Founders who don't, I think that's also the difference between a non-venture backed fund company and a normal company.
It is
Right.
because आपको वो
You have to
end
make them believe.
end goal जो है वो that has to be large enough for them to be interested in. So वो
true.
जब तक आप उसका सोचेंगे नहीं तब तक आप वो अचीव करने की कोशिश भी नहीं करेंगे.
Right. Before we move forward, I want to ask you: have we missed anything that you want to add on? Something that we should discuss?
Yeah, I think not really. वो आपने female founder वाली चीज़ बड़ी अच्छी पूछी तो मुझे मजा आया उसका जवाब देने का. Good.
Right. So, I just wanted to ask you, so we have this rapid fire round we have been having since season one, I would say. So let's continue with that. One word for anything that comes to your mind when you think about that. Favorite startup, not which is not yours.
Favorite startup I would say AimFit because I think वो femtech वाले में बड़ा उन्होंने they've hit the nail on the head वाला जो factor.
Yeah, I've seen
very
Frame Fit.
interesting work that they're doing.
Right. So,
I've been a follower for a while now.
Right. Yeah, Okayker.
Okayker, lots of hard work.
अच्छा, लम्स वैसे आई भी है. ये याद रखें कि कौन देख रहा है आपका.
Yeah, LUMS any day, home.
Right. Financial literacy.
Must have, but
Interest.
not there yet.
ठीक है. Favorite podcast. ये मैं कहना नहीं चाहता था मगर लिख दिया.
Yeah, this one I.
आप international जा सकती है इसके
So
अंदर.
there's a very interesting podcast called All In.
Agreed.
I love it. It is something that we watch. Me and my husband we listen to
agreed.
it on our way to work. So yeah.
And thank you coming in for Anusha. I think I love the conversation. I think most female founders who are watching us, I think I think they could be inspired from people looking at people like you and listening to you. And I hope they could start something on their own and then keep on believing on a bigger vision.
Inshallah.
Right. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for watching, and I hope to see you in your next episode. Allah Hafiz.